One. Hello, and welcome to JDUB and Friends, episode 36, with the one, the only EvilCronos13. How you doing tonight, Kronos?
Not too bad.
Uh,
Thanks for inviting me on. I meant to mention that at the start of the our last attempt at this, but slipped my mind.
yeah, the last attempt kind of went real bad, real quick. um,
That's the nature of the internet for you.
exactly. So yeah, me and Evil were trying this last night. Probably keep switching the name up. I haven't decided yet. Kronos, Evil, sometimes both. But yeah, we tried this last night and it went really bad, real quick. So just I had some news yesterday about Minecraft, but today I thought, you know what? Let's change it up. So, this is Evil Kronos' channel. He's done a lot of different LPs and mostly RPGs, I believe. Besides Super
That's been
Mario
the
World.
majority of them.
Yeah, and ActRaiser. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great ones. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, which Final Fantasy X-2 a lot of people didn't really like, but hey, it's a great game in my opinion.
It had a lot of really good ideas. It just because they were trying to put so many of those ideas into one game, it
Mhm.
just didn't work out the way they wanted it to. If they had gone full in on a couple of those ideas, I'm sure it would have probably come across a lot better.
I agree completely. Yeah, there's a few things I loved about it, and then there's a couple things I was like, they could have done without, but it's, not too bad. So I thought, you know what? Instead of news tonight, we're just going to look at some of I have a list of best RPGs with time-based combat that I found on MSN, and just kind of get your opinion on some of them. Let's see. The first one, Legend Dragoon, which is my favorite RPG of all time.
That's
Uh,
probably my favorite in terms of like the timing button press mini game thing that they have in combat. At least any of the games I can think of off the top of my head.
yeah,
I adore that game a lot, and I think it was probably the LP that I did that kind of started me on. Okay, I'm gonna try and treat this somewhat seriously. Uh, of course, it is what it is. It's not like I blew up to gigantic proportions or anything, but
mhm.
it was the point where I was like, I'm putting enough effort in that I'm happy with it.
I understand completely. Yeah, I have a funny story about Legend of Dragoon. While we're moving on to the next game, Legend of Dragoon's is like my holy grail. I want to, like, when I actually do Let's Plays and get farther and everything like that. I want to be able to do a full Let's Play with like a bunch of LPers and have every
Oh
LPer be a
yeah,
different character and voicing the different characters throughout the game. Um,
interesting.
yeah, that was kind of a cool idea, and then just see kind of what happens. But my luck, they'll have a they'll have a RP or a remake or remaster or sequel or something. They could do so much with that. They have so many stories. They could do a prequel, they could do a sequel, they could do a full remaster. And you have three. Um, Bug Fables, I didn't really play. It's not
Yeah, that one's new to me.
yeah. But then we have let's see, Bug Fable is apparently a homage to the Paper Mario, I guess. And it's or actually it's Super Mario RPG Legend of Seven Stars by the one this is telling about. I didn't play that one much. The next game I played a little bit and I watched Chuck Conroy's Let's Play of, but Mother 3.
Mother 3 is Earthbound, correct? Or is
Uh,
that 2?
Mother 3 is Earthbound 2
Oh, okay.
because
Yeah,
it was
see, I've
good.
tried to play the original Earthbound a couple of times, and
Mhm.
as blasphemous as it is to say, I just couldn't get into it. The only way I've been able to enjoy it is through like other people doing let's plays of it, Chugga Connery being one of
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this one's a lot funner. It's kind of like Legend Dragoon in a way. There is like the battle system is actually to the music, so you can get
them. Oh
more.
yeah.
You can do more attacks if you time your attacks to the music, which is kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
yeah. If
have
you,
no sense of rhythm or I'm tone deaf or something, so I would fail miserably at that.
yeah, me too. But it's like some of it I'm trying to get it, but it's difficult. And then watching Chug get like a 100 hit combo, I'm like, all right, what's up with that? Uh,
Yeah.
Project X Zone. I never played it. Apparently, it was on the
Never,
3DS.
yeah, I've never heard of that one. Then again, I don't own any of the never owned any of the DS consoles, so
Oh
not
man,
surprising.
one of the games I bought and then I haven't had a chance to fully play through all of it yet. South Park: The Stick of Truth.
I have two of them sitting unplayed in my Steam library, I think. Two? Yeah, I think there's only two that I bought so far. Or Stick of Truth was the first one, and then the other one was the Fractured something or other.
Yeah, the Fractured Butthole,
There you go.
which is a great name for a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stick of
Reminds me of the old there was a Blink 182 album when I was a kid. Well, I believe it was called Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. And me
Yep.
being an idiot kid at the time, I didn't get it until I did. And it's like, oh, I'm stupid.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, this is
Now it
no.
makes sense.
Yeah. This one's one that just kind of came out a period, not very long ago. Sea of Stars.
I've heard so many good things about this one. I haven't actually purchased it yet, but it's been sitting on my wish list until I can finish some of the games I actually have on my Steam list that I haven't played yet.
Apparently, it's a love story to Chrono Trigger.
I hear that about a lot of different games. What was it? There was Sasuna or something like that. It was
Hmm.
a double A game released by like under Square's banner by
Hmm.
a smaller studio.
Oh, okay.
See, I know I have it in my Steam library here. What was it called? I Am Setsuna.
Hmm.
And that one was supposed to be a love story or like a love letter to Chrono Trigger as well. Again, I purchased it and then never got around to playing
Okay. Yeah, I have to definitely check it out. Oh, here's another one that everybody talks about: Undertale.
it.
Still.
Undertale, I enjoyed quite a bit of. Um, I suck at it. It
Yeah.
took me a long time. I probably shouldn't have gone for the pacifist route on my first and only playthrough, but it probably made the game a lot more difficult than it needed to be. But I eventually got through it.
There we go. Yeah, I've been wanting to play it, and apparently it was for like $1 on Steam, and I missed it. But I
Oh,
was
rip.
Yeah, I was gonna get. I was like, screwed. I'll get on PS4, PS5. It's like $20 right now. I'm like, wait for a little bit. This game, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, so good. GBA, one of the first RPG, well, second RPG, obviously, of Mario behind Legend of the Seven Stars, but it was so good. Story's great. Two characters, Mario and Luigi, obviously, and they each have their own button to battle and exploring the world. So like A would be, I think was Mario, and B was Luigi. So it's kind of a cool idea.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, and that is actually the last one. So yeah, Mario Luigi Superstar Saga. I've played a few of these. He's played a few of them too. But I think it is
With
time.
the
Oh, go
idea
ahead.
of button presses, I think there's one that's coming out this month, Exhibition 33,
Hmm.
which is from like a French studio that used JRPGs as their influence.
Hmm.
And I think technically it's like a double A, but it looks like a triple A. And it's
Okay.
supposed to be turn based with button timing and like dodge timing and stuff like that as well.
Hmm.
Looks actually quite interesting. I don't know if it'll be any good, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, might as well at this point for any of the new RPGs coming out. Look pretty good for a lot of them. I mean, RPGs have had ups and downs most of the time over the years. So hopefully,
Yeah,
you get.
I got really lucky. Was growing up basically during the heyday when everything was great.
Mhm.
My first console was a Super Nintendo, and then I had a PlayStation. So I had basically the best consoles and then PS2 after that.
Yep.
So think about all the RPGs that have come out across those three consoles over the years.
Yep. Exactly.
RPGs are just littered throughout all of those consoles.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, me and Kronos grew up where Final Fantasy 1 or Final Fantasy 2 that came to America wasn't actually Final Fantasy 2, it was Final Fantasy 4. So,
Oddly enough, I missed it on Super Nintendo, and it wasn't until the Final Fantasy Anthology port with Chrono
mm,
Trigger on the PS1 where I actually got around to playing it.
hmm
And I remember struggling like nuts trying to actually finish that game when I was a kid. I was trying to beat the final boss, and I just failed and failed and failed and failed. And eventually I went out and I did enough grinding that I was able to do it. Now, I wouldn't have anywhere near as much trouble, but back
right.
then, kicked my ass.
Yeah, I heard the PlayStation 1 version of Chrono Trigger was the worst of the three that came out, which is funny.
It just had a lot of load times because it put everything on the disk, so you had to wait for the disk speed,
hmm
to read off the disk as opposed to the cartridges.
hmm
So it added the awesome Akira Toriyama, cutscenes,
Yeah.
but it made everything laggy to play. So other than the one or probably did a single run and then a new game plus run on that. And then every other time I've played up until just recently, I've been playing on Super Nintendo
Yeah,
or emulator.
I've heard the DS version is the best, followed by SNES and then PlayStation, obviously.
The
But
DS version I never played, but the PlayStation or the PC version is the one that I played recently. It's basically the same as far as I understand it.
okay.
And I'm I'm not a big fan of a lot of what they added because I thought kind of the pacing of the game and
hmm
the amount of side quests and what the side quests represented was actually perfect as it was.
hmm
But in the PC port and the DS version, they added some extra dungeons that really didn't have a lot to offer.
Okay.
There was not really any. There was one. There was like an extra bonus final boss, and that was the only bit of story throughout it. Everything else was just fetch quests.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I haven't got very far. I think Chrono Trigger I played about maybe 20 minutes. I think I got to the point where um they get to the part or the little area and she disappears through the time warp thing and yeah, about it. So,
Sounds about right for the time.
yeah. Yeah, I was like, well, I didn't get too far. But yeah, we tried to do some of these questions last night. Got to three of them, and then all of a sudden it was like, so we're gonna try and get through five questions tonight, and then we'll get to the main interview part of it. Um, Now since you aren't a video game uh player like I myself, if you could live in any fictional video game location, where would you live?
Most video games take place in worlds that are falling apart.
hmm
The first thought that comes to my mind is somewhat morbid, I guess, but the far plane in Final Fantasy X too. Just for
Oh,
the scenery alone. Like when you walk in there, all you see is the platform most of the time. But the original cutscene is full of waterfalls that I think had some basis in like a real life location that like took
hmm
inspiration from somewhere. I forget where off the top of my head, but it's absolutely gorgeous.
yeah.
So that would be one place. A lot of areas in Final Fantasy X too, especially early on, like, a beach paradise like Besaid,
hmm
sounds lovely, but if you have to sit around there and wait for Sin to come and kill you every 5 minutes, probably not my favorite place to be. So
No.
I don't know.
And you could always live in Xanarkand, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and then it's 2,000 years in the future.
Well, you could live in Xanarkand and be like living in New York, I would guess. Never been
Yeah.
to New York, but it's full
Yeah.
of giant buildings.
Yeah.
So
All right. Uh, my second question for you, since you do play a lot of RPGs, what is the most underrated RPG of all time in your opinion?
ooh, there's a bunch that come to mind. Um, as many problems with it as I have, Xenosaga Episode 2 definitely comes to
mm,
mind. It was a game that the battle system was very divisive,
hmm
very, as far as I know, very few people really liked it. and I was included in that until I did my test run for the Let's Play.
Mhm.
Then I learned so much about it that now I have a lot of a higher appreciation for it than I ever did before.
Yep.
Final Fantasy V is another one that comes to mind
Mm.
because it doesn't get a lot of love, but the battle system is really cool. The
Mhm.
music's awesome, and it doesn't get as much love as 4 or 6, but
Yep.
I honestly think it's my second favorite of the SNES
Y-
RPG or Final Fantasy games.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 5 ended up in a bad spot, kind of like 8 did, where 5 was between 4 and 6, which are both
Yeah.
beloved Final Fantasy games, and
Hmm.
you had 8 pop up right between 7 and 9, which were both loved too. And then
Yeah.
so I was like, you don't win, you win for losing at that point.
The other one I'll point out is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
I actually
Nobody
haven't played
likes
that.
Mystic Quest, but Mystic Quest is fantastic. It's dumb fun. It
Hmm.
You don't need to be super smart. You don't need to follow a complex story. It's just awesome music and super easy, super fun.
Hmm.
If you die, you just restart the battle right away. It's like, oh, I got screwed. Cool, I'll try again. There's
Yeah,
almost no death state in that game, really.
that's not bad. That's a good thing then. Yeah, I haven't played Final Fantasy Mystic Quest yet. I've just got into, was it Final Fantasy? Oh my goodness, it wasn't actually Final Fantasy. It wasn't connected to Final Fantasy, but they use a Final Fantasy name. Final Fantasy
It's
Adventure, I think, was what it's called. I think
that which one is
it's on the GB
was
on the
that
Game
what
Boy.
yeah, I'm trying to remember which series that was part of because Final Fantasy Legend and Final Fantasy Adventure were, I think, both Game Boy
Yeah,
uh like sub series, and then they spawned off. One of them became the Mana series, the
yep,
other one became the Saga series, I believe.
yeah, yep. And
If I
yeah,
remember correctly. I just don't
yeah,
remember which one became which.
yeah. I don't remember that. I remember I played both of them. I have like most of the Final Fantasy games, minus 14. Well, I guess I technically could download it from my PS5, but I need space. Yay! But I just don't have 16 right now for Final Fantasy, and then 11, obviously, because 11's PC only now, and the size and just it's hard to play now on PC because it doesn't really work too well anymore. But
I had a friend who played a lot of Final Fantasy 11, but the MMOs just don't really do a lot for me.
mhm,
The whole concept behind an MMO, it's like, here, let's do all the stuff that I don't typically enjoy in RPGs, and that's the entire game. You
right,
know, the fetch quests, the endless grinding.
yep,
There's only one game I've ever been able to endlessly grind at, and that's Diablo 2. Don't ask me
Diablo 2.
why, but even to this day, the resurrected version still eats up my time.
Moo, 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 moo.
Yeah, yeah.
Diablo
Back in
2
the
is
day, I
such a
spent
great game.
way too much time in the cow level.
Yeah,
Now I almost never go into cow level.
yeah. Diablo 2 is such a great game. Did you play 3?
I did play 3. I haven't played 4 yet.
Mm,
I was at the time that 4 came out, I was still playing Diablo 2 Resurrected, and
mm,
I just didn't see any reason to give it a try. I watched some people play it on stream, but didn't really draw me in. One day
yep.
I will download it and I will run through the game once probably, and then go, all right, good enough for me.
Yeah, Diablo 3 a lot of people didn't like, which I thought was crazy because I thought it was pretty good, but I guess I was in the
I
minority.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a bit early on. In fact, I think I did a let's play of it. It's a bad let's play, but I did one.
Yeah.
And I found that after I got through and I never really felt the need to do the endless grinding at the end.
Hmm.
And so in order to keep myself entertained with the game when I was still playing it, is I would just create new characters all the time and just keep
Hmm.
running them through the game because I found that was more interesting.
Hmm.
And it's very much the opposite with Diablo 2 because I hate creating new characters and running through the game. I get all my characters rushed because I find it's a lot more interesting to play around with endgame builds in that game.
Yep.
And in Diablo 3, all of your endgame builds, you could do them all on the same, you only needed to get one barbarian and then you could do every build on it.
Yep.
because you never needed to respec.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. I actually asked you a question last night about this, but it was kind of different. Uh, Now, if you had to take a wrestler's finisher, which finisher would you not want to take?
Anything that Brock Lesnar's dishing out,
Mm,
and definitely would not like to get hit by Braun Breaker's spear because that guy moves way too fast.
it's impressive, isn't it?
It's kind of insane.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how he's able to do that and not A, hurt himself, and B, hurt anyone else.
exactly. Yeah,
Very impressive.
his dad's Rick Steiner. For anybody that
Yeah.
doesn't watch wrestling, but if you watch wrestling, you know he's one of the Steiner brothers. Which basically the Steiners are known for being really strong. Basically, a lot of wrestlers try and help the other wrestler, by like jumping up and helping them a little bit. But the Steiners are just so powerful they can basically throw them right over their head with no problem. And Braun Breaker's, basically a mix of Rick and Scott Steiner, so it's impressive. But
It's definitely an impressive package. He's just immensely talented at what he does.
exactly, yeah, it's crazy. Uh, Now you have played some of the Final Fantasy games. What is your Mount Rushmore of Final Fantasy summons?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Summons.
Hmm.
Um, I guess it could probably be pretty lazy and put Bahamut on there because Bahamut's just, it's a giant dragon.
Yeah.
How can you not find that incredibly cool?
Hot take.
Let's see.
FF10 has the best Bahamut.
Hmm, He has more character in that one than any other, so
Yep.
can't really argue with you. In Final Fantasy IV, he just sits there and goes, "Okay, I will challenge you,"
Yeah.
and then, "Okay, now I'm on your team."
Yep.
What else? I like a lot of the characterization we got with Ramu in Final Fantasy IX.
Okay.
Ramu, as a generic lightning summon, isn't anything special, but in terms of the personality we got and the fact they basically went over parts of Final Fantasy II in this little story mini quest thing that you did when you first acquired him,
Hmm.
I just found that was an interesting approach to the game that only people who had actually played Final Fantasy II would get. So that
Yeah.
was cool. Who else? There's probably some like one shot ones that would be really cool.
Hmm.
Put Anima on there just
Yep.
because Anima from Final Fantasy X, again,
Hmm.
a lot more personality, a lot more characterization, really cool aesthetic,
Yeah.
just very intimidating presence.
Hmm. One of the best overdrives because you don't expect going back underneath there and fighting that version of it again.
Yeah, because there's two different versions of that. There's the one in the original where it was only a single hit, and then
Yeah.
in the international version, and then later in the remaster, they added it became like a multi-hit attack.
Yep.
And I think they might have even changed the animation on it as well.
Yeah.
Can't
It's
remember.
impressive.
Um, else one more, one more. I'll go with Diablos from Final Fantasy VIII, just because
Mm.
it's the freaking devil.
Yeah.
It's just
Makes
a
sense.
really cool. It's like you should probably, you look at the item that Sid gives you. It's like you should probably save before doing this. It's like, oh, you go and save. It's like, oh shit, it's the devil.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yep. Yeah. I Final Fantasy X has some of the greatest summons in my opinion. I'm in the series. I mean, I might be a little bit, like what's the word I'm looking for? A little biased, but because it's like my second RPG, third RPG behind Legend Dragoon and Final Fantasy IV. So, but just something about like Ixion and Ifrit and you know uh, Bahamut. Bellafor, Anima. I mean, Magus Sisters are in it, which they've been in a few Final Fantasy games at that point, but just the crazy amount of you know aeons you get at that point is what they're called in Final Fantasy X. But I don't know.
I tried to avoid putting on repeat too many repeats like Ifrit and Shiva because
Yeah,
they're in pretty much every game except
right.
for
Yeah,
12 because 12 decided we're going to have summons that nobody's heard of and we're going to name all the ships after our summons.
yep. Yeah,
That
12
wasn't
was a
very
weird.
smart.
12 was a weird art
12
Final Fantasy.
well, well that's it's the game where you start off with a 30-hour desert level.
Yeah, yeah.
I have elements of 12 that I enjoy,
Hmm.
but there's a lot more that I dislike than I do like.
Yeah. You see, I like 13 better than 12, which was a hot take because a lot of people didn't like 13. But
You're on your own on that one. I played 13. I do not like 13. I really don't.
yeah.
I find what the most important thing for me in an RPG is making sure that I enjoy the plot and I enjoy the characters that are going along for the plot.
Hmm.
And other than Saz, I don't
Oh,
like any of the characters in 13.
Saz is so
I
good.
just I don't find any of the other ones are particularly interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I like the music. The music in the game is really good.
Hmm.
It looks pretty. Even now, it looks pretty.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I finished the original. I finished 13, and then within a day or two, I picked up 13 too, and I probably played like 2 or 3, maybe 4 hours into it,
Hmm.
and went, "Why are they retconning everything right away?" And
Right.
got annoyed, even though I didn't like the original. I was like, well, you can't just change everything all at once for no reason and
Right.
reinterpret everything the way you want. And then it's like, well, I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about picking it back up and trying to finish it, but I don't know if it'll happen.
I understand that. So my last question for you before you start the interview part. If you could remaster any video game that hasn't got one, which one would it be?
Remaster.
Hmm.
As someone who's really enjoyed the Final Fantasy VII remake project,
Hmm.
I'm actually not a big fan of a lot of the remasters that we have gotten. Like, other
Hmm.
than like fixing general issues that we had, a lot of the time the upgrades, quote unquote,
Hmm.
aren't so much upgrades. They
Yeah.
released Chrono Trigger on PC, and then there was a massive amount of backlash because I think they like based it on like the mobile port or something like that. And
Hmm.
so it was just everything kind of looked, oily and ugly, and the font just didn't make sense. It's like, here you go, here's a digital font to go with your 90s video game. No,
Right.
that doesn't really line up. It just everything about it just looked wrong.
Hmm.
So the problem with a lot of the remasters, and I know in Chrono Trigger that was just a port.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like I see a lot of it. People want, like a Chrono Trigger, remaster or remake.
Hmm.
And, back in the day, when they were working on projects like Chrono Resurrection, I believe was a fan project.
Hmm.
I think there was another one out there as well. But they were working on it. It was like a fan 3D remake of the original game.
Hmm.
And at that point, I was interested.
Hmm.
At this point, I don't know. Here, I'll give you one. Xenogears.
Oh yeah.
Xenogears needs a remake just because they didn't have the finances to finish the game the way they wanted to the first time.
Hmm.
So I would put that one on there.
Yeah. I'm. You
But
know.
then again, we basically got that in Xenosaga, and they couldn't finish that one either.
Hmm.
So what you gonna do?
Yeah. They set up. I played through Xenosaga 1. That was such a great game, and then the story or the cutscenes were so long. I was like, oh, okay. Let me get through
I
this
consider
cutscene.
when I made the LP, I considered naming it Let's Watch Xenosaga instead of Let's
Hmm.
Play, just because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
But I try to kind of negate too much of the long periods of sitting and not doing anything by trying to include at least some amount of actual playing of the video game in each video.
Yep.
So I didn't just have like a 30-minute episodes of, okay, yeah, today we're gonna watch, cutscenes all day.
Yep. We're gonna see what Cosmos says about such and such. Here we go for the next 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, EvilCronos13, as he's known on YouTube, has been doing Let's Plays for a while now. When you first started doing Let's Plays, was there's somebody that you've looked up to that you're like, I'm gonna try this out and see how it goes, or were you kind of just like, let's try it and see just to have fun, make it a hobby?
There was definitely influence. The number one influence was HC Bailey.
Hmm.
HC Bailey did so many of the games that I enjoyed,
Hmm.
and I found that his humor and his sense of completeness of always trying to find every little thing plus providing strategies, that really appealed to me because I think when I first looked up here's a weird little anecdote. My first time looking up a walkthrough video on YouTube was for a school project
Oh, really?
in university. I was trying to I was right like I think I had to do like a presentation or write a paper on like the uses of video games in
Hmm.
in some beneficial way or something like that.
Okay.
And I remember what I looked up was either Shadow Hearts. I think it was Shadow Hearts Covenant.
Yep.
There was a puzzle in that game, and I was using that as my example for how the puzzle would be useful in terms of stimulating the brain or something like
Hmm.
that. And that was the first time I looked up through there, and I guess through YouTube recommendations eventually I ended up seeing some of HC Bailey's Let's Plays, and from then I was like, I'm going to look at some of these other people that are doing this stuff.
Hmm.
But in the end, the two that probably influenced me the most would be HC Bailey and Chugga Khan.
Yeah. Yeah. They were.
I took elements that they were able to, that I thought was useful in terms of how they approached it, and
Mhm.
then I tried to kind of, you know, intermingle it into my personality and try and come up with a style that was more or less mine.
Makes sense. Yeah, I Chugga or yeah, Chugga Conroy's was big for me actually. Thanks to Chugga, and I told him this. I did a podcast with him, and I said, "Thank you for making me fail college because I got addicted to Super Mario Sunshine." Me and my roommate did,
Nice.
and we watched his Let's Play, and we kept, we were playing through the game with him, and he get to certain points and stop because he's making the next video and all that stuff. So yeah, for about a year, we've just played Super Mario Sunshine. Went to class, but didn't do very much homework, so I
Yeah, there you go.
dropped out of college after 6 months. But oh well, it was still fun. But yeah, H.C. Bailey's another big one that he's been doing that for years too. So definitely one of the
Yeah,
main.
both of them are still doing it, which is just
Yeah,
nuts because it's been like I've been doing it for way too long, and these guys have been doing it far longer than I have.
yep. Chugga just started his 51st Let's Play, and I think H.C. Bailey has over 100 now, which is nuts.
Yeah,
But
he's done so many weird little niche
mhm.
RPGs that I had never heard of.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. Now when you first started out, was Evil Chronos 13 your name, or do you have something else that you picked out first and then kind of fell into the Evil Chronos later?
No, this is the only YouTube account that I've actually created. So
Hmm.
it's the one that I first created even before I planned on making any videos. I just
Okay.
made the channel probably to subscribe to some people
Hmm.
just so I could keep it all organized and so I could find them when I wanted.
Now, where I mean, obviously Chronos from Chrono Trigger, but was like the 13 and the evil part just kind of thrown in there, or were you like, that just sounds good together?
Chronos was definitely inspired by Chrono Trigger as well as the Greek Titan of Time.
Mhm.
Zeus's father. There's a few different ways of spelling it, that being one of them.
Mhm.
So that was part of it. The evil was probably because I was in my like early teens, and I was trying to channel my best squall and be edgy.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And I think the original Evil Kronos was taken at that point, so I threw 13 on the end because Red 13, I guess. I don't know.
See, yeah, I was that's it was. I guess like everybody's that started out and just kind of hit their nickname, it's just stay with it for a lot of the time, and uh, like for you, it's kind of been one of those cool nicknames that nobody else has, and everything like that, and nobody's even thought about using like Chronos really that often, besides like for Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, LPs, and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, let's do this, and then like, oh yeah. But did you like what besides like what made you get an LP, did you expect to like make any subscriptions and stuff like that? Did you expect people to subscribe to you at first, or were you just kind of like doing it as a hobby?
Did I expect it? No. Was I hoping? Like my goal at one point
Mhm.
was 1,000 subscribers
Mm,
and about 100 views on a video.
okay.
Now, like I've eclipsed the subscriber thing. The view count is up and down depending on which video it is and how long it's been out.
Mm.
But that was all. That was my kind of long term goals. Like if I can get that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And eventually, I got at least relatively close, if not surpass it, depending on your perspective.
Mm. Now, is there anybody like in the future that you would like to collaborate with if you could?
Um, I've never really done a collab.
Hmm.
It's when it comes to doing single player games, there's not really a lot of room for that type of thing, or at least not with my lack of creativity at the moment. But yeah, like if I was to do some other games, like I did a let's play of Ori and the Blind Forest, which is a Metroidvania platformer, 2.5D kind of style of game,
Hmm.
and that that and its sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, they have a randomizer for each of those games.
Mm.
So something like doing, I would fare pretty poorly trying to do it competitively, but
Hmm.
doing something like, competition among a bunch of people who also are, similar skill level trying to do randomizer seeds, that could be interesting.
That's
But
cool.
any particular content creator,
Hmm.
nothing that really comes to mind.
Okay. Yeah, I was telling you last night, or actually this afternoon, or well, sometime. But yeah, like watch, doing all these people I've done like with Chugga Conner, Proton John, and stuff like that, and collaborating, doing something with you now on a podcast. Like this is really cool that I got to, do a podcast with everybody. I kind of either watched when I was growing up, even though we're about the same age, but you know, uh, like people I consider, big time let's players, and people I like got stuck in a game. I'm like, help me, and then found you for Xenosaga and a few other games. But yeah, it's kind of cool, and kind of actually cool that a lot of people have been wanting to do the podcast with me, and thank you for that in the already that you're doing it again. So
Mm, thanks for inviting me on. Like I said, this is like I no one's ever asked me to do a podcast before, so it's interesting.
yeah, first time, woo. um Now, did you come up with your own I mean, obviously your logo's in front of me right here, but did you come up with the logo yourself, or was it kind of just something that you found that somebody else
It
kind of came up with and you're like, "Oh, that's
or,
kind of cool."
ori- Originally the logo that I used before the one that's on there now, it
Mhm.
was the Laughing Man animated GIF logo from Ghost in the Shell standalone complex,
Oh, okay.
and it had the line around the rim there, and I think it was a quote from the show. It's like, I thought what I'd do is become one of those deaf mutes, and that will make absolutely no sense if you haven't seen the series.
Hmm.
But basically, I took that idea, and then after a while, I decided I should probably have one that's actually mine instead of just using an existing logo.
Hmm.
And I forget where I went. It might have been Reddit. I
Hmm.
went somewhere and ended up talking to a guy. I believe his name was Lecco, or at least that was his code.
Right.
And we basically worked together on it. Like he would come up with a concept, and then I'd tweak it and send it back. So
Mm.
he worked on that, and so he's credited in the description of each one of my videos for creating that.
Nice. Yeah, I've been trying to come up with a logo. I mean, the JDUB Friends logo is kind of boring and basic, but it works for now, I guess. Um, Now, as an LPer, is there stuff that you notice that has worked a lot better for you than other things? And then is there some things that you've changed that you're like, well, this I thought this would work, but it hasn't now.
Um, the one thing I notice if I ever go back and like use my videos as a resource, if I'm like replaying a game or something like that,
Hmm.
if I go back and look at it, the one thing I notice is that when I originally started, I was in college slash university.
Hmm.
And I notice as I go back and listen to some of what I was saying, it's like, man, my vocabulary actually used to be decent. What the fuck happened? Because my vocabulary has fallen apart over the years as I've, haven't been in school in such a long time, and I haven't had nearly the amount of opportunity to, challenge it. There's only so much that I can, accumulate through reading, right?
Hmm.
Um, Something in particular. The one thing, early, I wouldn't say early on, but at some point, I ended up talking too much over voiced cutscenes because
Hmm.
I was always trying to add something that wasn't like that. No, someone else wouldn't have put in when if they just uploaded footage.
Hmm.
So I always wanted to be talking, and it took a while to learn to like just lay out and let the scene speak for itself.
Hmm.
And I like to do that a little bit more now. I don't like to talk over it too much.
Hmm.
Sometimes I miss out on ideas that I would like to expand upon because by the time we get to the end, of a 5-minute cutscene, the three things that I wanted to talk about are completely out of my mind as we're getting to a later point in the cutscene, and I'm thinking about something else now. So I end up missing out on some of those things, but I think it stands better as video, especially if somebody's trying to follow the storyline alongside with the gameplay help as well.
Makes sense. Yeah. Now you've done a lot of Let's Plays. Is there a particular favorite of yours that you think that everybody should watch?
The one Xenosaga episode 2 is the one where I changed my opinion on the game a
Hmm.
lot from prior to test run to completed Let's Play.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of pride in all the work that I did to try and get that combat system to make a lot more sense and make it digestible for other people who struggled. Like I remember fights that I would get into random battles, and I would spend 10 to 15 minutes in a fight and just be annoyed to no end that the enemies wouldn't just die. And learning later on, there's a clip for there was a boss that I
Hmm.
was able to demonstrate. He had a certain amount of health, and you had to deal some damage in order to build up to get to this point. But you
Hmm.
could get to the point where you could do more HP than he had when he was at full health.
Oh wow.
And if you tried to just, beat away at it with normal attacks or basic spells,
Hmm.
it would take way longer to finish off the fight. So being able to learn so much about that game and share, about the combat in a way that was hopefully able to help people through it,
Hmm.
especially considering how much I struggled when I first played it. I definitely enjoy what I was able to do with that. The amount of lore research and papers that I read for the Xenogears LP
Mhm.
is far beyond what I did for any other one.
Hmm.
I learned a lot about the various concepts and the psychology and the philosophy that is associated with that game when I was doing that. And of course, my brain is turned to mush at this point, so I've forgotten the vast majority of it. But I at least have that reference point there if I ever want to go back to it.
Makes sense. Now, with your LPs, how many of them like have you gone in blind and just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna try this game blind," or how many times, or are most of them like you practice enough of them that you know where everything's at, or kind of 50-50 on both?
The first handful of games I did without test runs.
Mhm.
Let's see. I'll pull up my folder here. Where's that? So like with I think it was Final Fantasy 9,
Mhm.
4, and 7. I think those were the ones I did before. And then I think the last time I didn't do a test run was Star Ocean Till the End of Time.
Ooh, such a great game.
I think that was the last time I didn't do a test run. Every other game since then has I've had a test run
Mhm.
except for Final Fantasy 7 Remake.
Mm.
That one I did blind as the game came out,
Mhm.
and I was recording directly off my PS4 at the time, so that one is a very different Let's Play. Most of the episodes are in and around an hour because that was the limit on file size that you could record directly off the PS4, and I didn't have the hardware in order to, like a capture card or anything like that.
Yeah, I
So that
understand.
one was basically live stream recordings more than it
Mm.
was anything else.
Makes sense.
But yeah,
Yeah,
everything else has had some form of test run.
yeah, I've watched a lot of your Let's Plays, and I can definitely like see the ones where it was like he really loves this, what he's doing with this LP, and like your first couple LPs, you could definitely see like a change from like when you first started with like Final Fantasy, and then when you got up to farther in the future, like Final Fantasy 10, 10-2, etc., that there was definitely a change, with the way that you were doing it, in which it's kind of cool watching everybody grow up in certain ways, like HC Bailey, Chugga Conroy, yourself. Proton John's another one that what you watched a couple of his first videos, you're like, what in the world was he doing back then? And then now it's like, wow, totally different.
Yeah, the difference in terms of like my level of confidence. Well, one of the
Mm.
reasons I actually went in to start making videos, like I was inspired by HC Bailey and I wanted to give it a try.
Hmm.
But like I've always been a lot more introverted.
Mm.
For me, trying to find something that I could riff on
Hmm.
and just having more of a sense of confidence when I was speaking off the cuff, that was
Yeah,
something that I wanted to get out of it, and I definitely think that I was able to accomplish that over the years of doing it.
definitely.
Trying to listen to me talk at the some of my first videos is like, no, I can't listen to it. No, can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought it was funny. Like, I don't know why. This is just like my personal opinion. It's like some people I could like watch for hours and hours and hours, and then other people like their voice just is not a good let's play voice, if you get what I mean. But it was, where you can layer just doesn't hit the same notes as a lot of people do, which is weird to say,
Yeah,
but
I understand that.
um
Yeah, everyone's got a unique voice, and some
yeah.
it works well for long periods of time. Like I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Mhm.
There are some that work really well, and some that don't. Even
Yeah.
if they both do a really good job of what they're doing,
Hmm.
some of them are just too dry to listen to for hours on end. You'll basically just put you to sleep.
I agree. Yep. Yeah. Speaking of audiobooks, we'll kind of cliche. Cliche. Wow. We'll kind of segue. There's the word I was looking for.
Transition.
Yeah, that too. See, I am a podcast professional. Oh my god. But who are some of your favorite authors?
Authors or narrators?
Well, either or. Authors that
Uh,
wrote the book, and then the narrator that reads it, I guess.
let's see. For authors, Richard Knack has done a lot of like
Mhm.
RPG fantasy style books.
Okay.
Specifically, did a lot in the Diablo universe. He did a lot of
Mhm.
those books, and I enjoy the background lore for the Diablo series, so I enjoyed those.
Mhm.
Patrick Rothfuss, he's done In the Name of the King,
Mhm.
Wise Man's Fear, and if he ever releases the third book in that trilogy, I would be very happy because I really enjoyed those.
Mhm.
Um, who else?
Mhm.
Sarah J. Mass does kind of like they're like romantic fantasy series,
Mhm.
and they incorporate a lot of fairy lore into them.
Okay.
So I've been enjoying a lot of the works that she's been doing primarily through audiobook form.
Hmm.
Um, as far as narrators, um, Ray Porter, you can't go wrong with Ray Porter. I've listened to all of the. I just finished one actually, the Bobaverse series.
Hmm.
He does a fantastic job with those.
Mhm.
Who else? Elizabeth Evans
Okay.
does. She does a lot of the romantic fantasy stuff through Sarah Mass as well as other authors. I really enjoy her work.
Okay.
Um, one other one I'll do is oh, now it's going to slip my mind.
Been there.
Yeah, next question. That's going to slip my mind. I'll think about it later.
Yeah, you're good. Uh, Now you are a wrestling fan. I think we talked about that earlier too, and about your wrestler finishers. What do you think about the WWE product now compared to a few years ago?
Well, probably about 6 or 7 years ago is when I tapped out.
Hmm.
I stopped watching the WWE product week to week. I was
Hmm.
watching NXT
Hmm.
up until 2.0, and then
Okay.
I gave it a couple of months and I was like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
I've been watching AEW's products in more recent years,
Hmm.
and that's one of the reasons why I'm getting burnt out by it because the
Hmm.
Death Riders thing is trash. But the the product in WWE now is undoubtedly better. Anytime I like, especially since they moved over to Netflix, I'm
Hmm.
in Canada, so I get all their shows on Netflix.
Okay.
So being able to watch any of their shows on Netflix
Hmm.
is it makes me a lot more likely to go and actually watch some of it. So
Hmm.
I've been watching, a few things here and there. I'm not watching the weekly show week to week, but I
Hmm.
tend to watch a lot more of the pay-per-views now that they're freely available on Netflix, which I have anyway.
Nice. Yeah. Did you catch the Cena heel turn?
I did watch the Cena heel turn. I was not expecting them to actually do it. It doesn't mean I didn't want them to do it, but
Hmm.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger heel turns of our generation. Probably close to the Hulk Hogan turn back in WCW days. But
Yeah, well, that one had so much more of an impact on
mhm.
wrestling in general than I think this one will. Just
Yeah,
because this is the end of Cena's career anyway, it's going to be a 3 month thing, and then he's going to have his redemption arc, and then he'll
yeah,
be able to ride off into the sunset as a babyface again. But
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be that's the only sad part. If it would have happened like last year, the year before last,
yeah,
big old
I
run.
I
But
just hope that they were able to keep that we don't just get it until Mania and then it's like, oh,
mhm,
he doesn't win the belt and then okay, now it's just over. Because that
yeah,
would be a waste. Wait, 15 years, whatever it is. And
hmm,
then oh yeah, we get a month, which includes 3 promos. It's
right.
like, okay, that's not quite enough.
No, his promo game is so good still though. It's incredible
Yeah.
the stuff he can
I
come up with.
remember when they had the program with The Rock.
Hmm.
And I remember like because The Rock is basically what got me into pro wrestling.
Yep.
I had TSN, which is the
Yeah.
sports station here in Canada that was
Yep.
running Raw and Nitro when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And I remember I would tune in and sometimes it would be this one show that was dark and gritty, and then sometimes it would be this other show where The Rock was doing who knows what and just making me laugh. And that's eventually what got me into the product in the first place.
Yep.
And seeing basically The Rock is, the guy that got me into it and the guy that was always making me laugh, and seeing him go up against Cena in those promos
Hmm.
from probably like 10 years ago now, it
Yeah.
was really surprising to see Cena, like, you, at least in my eyes, he won more often than he lost in those promo battles.
Yeah.
And I found that was just, like, he is such a good speaker when he needs to be,
Yep.
especially like, all the crap that they gave him over the years to say.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
Yep.
when he wants to go in on somebody, he goes in on them hard. Like the promo exchange he had with Cody, was it last week
Yeah.
or whatever it was?
Hmm.
That was fantastic. I was just enjoying the hell out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cody Rhodes came back last or a couple of WrestleManias ago now, which was a big surprise to a lot of people. I called it a few months before after he
I
left
I
AEW.
think I think a lot of us called it.
Yeah.
It was basically, it's like, here we go. We're going to give you a surprise opponent.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Cody.
Yep.
The only question is, how are they going to show Cody? Are we going to get
Yeah.
Kingdom? Are we going to get, the new music and all that stuff?
Yep.
Or are we going to get, Stardust or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was that first promo he cut after he returned to Raw for the first night was incredible, talking about finishing the story for his dad and his family because none of them won a world title and he wanted to win it for the family and all that stuff. It was just so incredible what they came up with for that. But
Yeah, that promo was at the time where he I thought that was entirely a him promo, like he wrote that promo or he came up with it off the top of his head because it had that meandering cadence that he had in AEW.
mhm.
But apparently, I remember hearing at the time that it was written for him just the way it was. So I was like, well, okay.
Yeah,
They
it's a good
just
way.
they they really got, his voice in that promo, or at least he was able to get his voice across in the promo. So it was impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Cody. For anybody that doesn't know, Cody Rhodes, along with Young Bucks and
Kenny Omega.
yep, Kenny Omega, were the AEW EVPs. Speaking of AEW, what do you think is their problem, their downfall right now? Because I mean, they're running so high, and then all of a sudden it just changed.
Uh Bad writing, bad booking, the Death Riders, the Elite angle before that, the fact that they're trying to merge them together now. Take your pick. They One of the issues they've had for a long time, I think, is they will have, how do I want to put this? They will take people off the show
Hmm.
without really giving them a reason to be off the show, and then they'll be off for months before they come back and they lose all their momentum.
Hmm.
And I know people had talked about like an off season for some wrestlers where you cycle them in and out. And I like the idea, but you
Yeah.
need to give a reason for why they're getting cycled out. You can't just all of a sudden they don't show up. Like not that I particularly care about Jack Perry at the moment, but Jack Perry had the TNT championship. He lost it to Garcia
Hmm.
and then disappeared for, well, he's still gone. He hasn't shown up since, and that's been like 3 months. The only time he showed up was on the New Japan show,
Yeah.
which don't know why. But yeah, it's, I don't know. It's having people disappear for no reason and not having storylines that go together
Hmm.
in a more cohesive way.
Hmm.
You know, I find WWE's product can sometimes feel almost too rehearsed,
Hmm.
and AEW's is almost not rehearsed enough. I think there's something closer to the middle that, would still have an edge, but would also, like with WWE, you'll get an angle and they'll get these perfect camera angles to show off the story and the emotion they're trying to get across.
Yep.
AEW tries to do that, but they miss a lot of those cues.
Hmm.
And, like they'll have the camera in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And I
I
think
agree.
that's part of the issue that makes it so it doesn't hit as hard as it otherwise would.
Yep, I completely agree. Yeah, but I feel like they AEW definitely changed when Cody left. Like I feel like Cody definitely had a lot of the creative stuff going that was going through him. Um, that isn't that nobody's there now. That was in Cody, kind of like Cody's position. I mean, yeah, you still have Kenny Omega, you still have the Young Bucks, but I feel like the Young Bucks have kind of lost their touch, and they've kind of like everybody says, "Oh, you need your heat." But I feel like the Young Bucks have their like go away heat, like we don't want to see you anymore on the screen, type thing. But I definitely,
Well, yes, they've had that for a while. That whole heel angle just
hmm
hasn't. It never worked when it started.
yeah,
It was funny watching Tony Khan go on what was it, Fox or something like that with a neck brace on
yeah,
to try and sell that. But other than that, it was just kind of weird. And
hmm
then it just got boring and more boring. And then they disappeared. And then it
yep,
was replaced with the Death Riders. And then it got even more boring. And then they
yep,
decided to bring them back at the last pay per view and crap all over that ending.
yep. Yeah, I
But
just
yeah,
I feel like another thing that's hurting AEW is they haven't built any new stars of their own. Like they've been like getting a lot of the ex WWE guys now. Like you just had Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business jump over, and uh before that, I mean, obviously Chris Jericho was there at the beginning. Moxley was kind of there at near the beginning, but it just feels
yeah,
like now.
he was on the first show right at the end.
Yeah.
I remember I was thinking before that that original All Out show
hmm
where it was like, okay, I need something that tells me that this company is going to do something.
Yeah.
And in my head, it had to be either Punk or it had to
hmm
be Moxley.
Yep.
And when we finally got to the end and we got it, I was like, okay, I can invest in this now. It looks like they're actually going to, try something.
Yep.
And they did really well. Like one of my favorite shows they ever did was I don't remember which show it was. It was the big double debut,
hmm
which was actually a triple debut. But they
hmm
had Danielson, they had Adam Cole, and they had Ruby Soho all on the same show debut. And
Yeah.
that was shortly after Punk came back, and that was basically like the height of all their popularity.
hmm
And eventually, it just started to fade. People started to leave.
Yep.
They haven't been able to book a lot of
hmm
people kind of the way a lot of us, fans would hope that they would be booked.
Yeah.
And, they just fade out. And then, you have this max exodus where like half a dozen people have left over the last handful of months and they've all
And,
gone back to WWE.
and big names too, like even just like Cody Rhodes going back. I mean, that kind of started opening the floodgates. I mean, at that point,
Yeah.
you had a lot more people going from WWE to AEW or TNA even. But now it's like you got, all Ethan Page just jumped to WWE as an NXT brand. You had Jade
Ricky
jumped over.
Starks.
Yep. Ricky Starks too, yeah. And it's
And then
just
we've got the Lucha Brothers are both over there now.
yep.
Alistair Black's going back. Andrade went back.
Yeah, and
Um,
what's his name? Why can't I not think of his name? Oh my goodness. Rusev. Rusev's him back there too.
Yeah, Rusev's going back there too.
Which I mean, they have a lot of talent on all the three
I
rosters.
Yeah, basically WWE is doing what AEW did before, and that's starting to hoard too much talent, and they're going to
hmm
have the same issue that happened over at AEW, where like there's too much talent, there's not enough TV time for everybody to get their stuff in.
Yeah.
Like it's already happened with Andrade back in WWE, but to be
hmm
honest, I think Andrade is kind of overhyped.
hmm
He's a really good wrestler,
Yeah.
but that's kind of it.
Yep.
I haven't really found I haven't been able to get invested in anything else really that he's done. And
Yeah.
there are some guys that can overcome, like the booking where I get the sense that, they're not really doing anything.
hmm
The big one that I was wrong on multiple times was Swerve. I
Yeah.
watched him as Killshot in Lucha Underground, and I
hmm
didn't care until that what was it? Hell of War, World War III, something like that. He had a match with Dante Fox down there,
hmm
and that one was an insanely brutal match. It's like, okay, this guy can do something.
Yeah.
And then Lucha Underground kind of faded away after that. He
Yep.
went to WWE. He was in NXT. I didn't really care. Then
Yep.
they started doing the producer bit, and it's like, okay, now it's interesting.
Hmm.
And then they brought him to the main roster, and he like lost, and then got canned right away. It's like, well, there goes that. And then got to
Yeah.
AEW. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna try again. And then again, I didn't really care.
Hmm.
And then the guy just blew up and started having these incredible matches with Hangman Page. And, now he's, I would probably say right now, you're
Hmm.
looking at him and Will Ospreay as being kind of like the heart and soul of AEW at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. Ricochet just jumped over to AEW, and I feel like he's not had a great run over there. I mean, I get,
I've enjoyed the hell out of his run out over there so far. It's been so much fun watching him actually be a heel and being like just a total dick.
well, yeah.
And
Yeah, that.
the fans have really helped because
Mhm.
the whole toilet paper thing, the chanting bald at him all the time,
Yeah.
the Three Stooges bit where everyone keeps slapping his bald head now, and just
Mhm.
I laugh every time they do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I just I don't know. I feel like he is very still he hasn't he should have I think he should have had his moment in WWE too. Like he's
Oh yeah,
over so talented. He can do so much things that he didn't really get pushed like he should have been in WWE. And I feel like same thing might happen in AEW, just kind of the way they shove. I mean, he's a heel right now, but it's like, is he gonna stay kind of in the mid card where he's at now, or are they gonna try and push him up? But it's
I
kind of
I, I think he's going to stay in the mid card. I think he's kind of at or in and around where he's going to end up being. I don't
Mhm.
think he's. I hope he doesn't drift down too far into the mid card,
Yeah,
but I think he's probably going to stay about where he is. I don't expect him to wear that title though.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like to see him wear at least one title. I don't know whatever one we get, but another guy that WWE fumbled that has had a good, I would say a good run in AEW is Samoa Joe. I feel like Samoa Joe had so much talent. He has so much talent. Loved him in TNA. It came to WWE. He was the first TNA guy that actually showed up in WWE, which is kind of cool. Um,
Yeah,
and
Joe
then
Joe can basically do no wrong.
yeah,
He just feels legitimate from
mhm,
his promos to his in-ring work
yep,
to the nope spot, which will always
so
pop me.
great. Yeah,
Uh, just he's basically what,
incredible.
a realistic, believable pro wrestler should be.
Yep.
And like the fact that, like they had him doing commentary in WWE and wearing a poncho in the rain and this
Yeah. Yep.
I don't
Yeah, because I mean, he had a
know.
hell of a run in NXT, and then they moved him up to the main
Yep.
roster. He had that great promo battle with well, not really promo battle, but
Lesnar.
yeah, and where he
Yeah,
just
with Lesnar.
and one of the best promo or one of the best lines in all of wrestling when he was talking to Jeff Hardy in the ring too. He basically no, I'm not saying anybody that deals with drugs or alcohol or any of that stuff is it's a bad thing. I understand. But I mean, just the way that Joe said it, he goes, "Hey Jeff, this is a if just pretend this is an AA meeting and be quiet while I'm talking to the class or something like that." And I was like, "Oh, mm."
Like
But
everything he does just feels legitimate. Like
mhm,
you can make fun of something in pro wrestling. It's just the same. It's same with comedy, right? You can
yeah,
make fun of ideas and stereotypes and stuff like that because of the situation that you're in. It's comedy. It's pro
yeah,
wrestling. Though
exactly,
it's not meant to be a personal attack on anyone.
exactly,
That's I guess one of the reasons why I like pro wrestling as much
hmm
as I do is it's kind of like an escape. You
hmm
have to check your, believability at the door. You have to, give it, some amount of, the word I'm
hmm
looking for.
believability or yeah,
Yeah, something like that. Words are hard.
yeah, I understand that. Yeah, like I mean, nobody would have believed that Dead Man would win a title and get buried alive a few times, and then come back as another dead man.
Yeah, that Undertaker is a very interesting case just because
Hmm.
like he was one of Vince McMahon's, projects that he created, and it blew up, and
Yep.
they managed to keep it relevant for so long. Plus, he only got better as a wrestler with age up until a certain point, but
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
until the concussion, I think, basically.
Yeah. Now I get why they can't, or they had him lose at WrestleMania. I just don't think it was a good idea because I felt like after that WrestleMania, none of the other WrestleManias meant anything for
Yeah,
WWE.
I don't think he ever should have lost at Mania.
Hmm.
I would have let him retire with the streak intact,
Yep.
but it is what it is. I'm not booking the show.
Yeah, me either. But I don't know. I mean, nothing as bad as Saudi match with him and Goldberg. I was a huge Goldberg fan, growing up when WCW was Goldberg, Sting, yeah, obviously NWO, which the Wolfpack had a better theme than the NWO did. That's just my opinion. But yeah, that I there's so many matches in the past that I would love to see. Like obviously, everybody wanted Sting and the Undertaker when they were,
Mhm.
both wrestling in WWE for a little bit, for like a year. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
incredible what they could have done with those two, and even Kane and Sting would have been cool too.
At that point in time, I think Taker was too beaten up,
Yeah.
and even though like Sting can still work,
Hmm.
he still worked for like 5 years past that.
Yeah.
But I don't think at that point that match would have been able to live up to the hype that all the fans had for it.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
don't think it would have happened. Like back in the day,
Hmm.
in the the mid 2000s or
Hmm.
2010s even, sure,
Yeah.
but it's been too long, so
True.
too old now.
Yeah, I thought for sure that Sting was coming in 2011 when they were doing all those vignettes. For the two, I think it was like 2511 or something like that. And
Yeah, something like that.
ended up being because of like when the smoke disappeared, it looked like it wrote out Sting, and ended up being Triple H and Undertaker doing for their WrestleMania match that next year, which was incredible. And then they had the Triple H and then Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, which is one of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. Um,
Yeah,
but even crazier than that,
take
oh good.
Taker had a real big streak there because he fought
Mhm.
back to back bangers with Shawn Michaels, and then he
Yep,
did back to back bangers with Triple H.
yep,
And there might have been another one in the middle of that. I can't remember. But either way,
yeah,
it was like four just awesome matches in a row.
yep, definitely,
And
yeah,
yeah, at that late stage of his career, it was really impressive to see him always put on such an insane match like that.
yeah. We were me and Kronos grew up around in this Attitude Era, so we got a lot of the cool, big stuff that people still remember to these day, like N- uh, Kevin Nash basically throwing Rey Mysterio right into the side of a truck headfirst, which was pretty.
I remember that kind of later on
Hmm.
because like when I was younger, I was a lot more of a WWE fan than I was a WCW fan.
Hmm.
I don't know what it was. Like I was starting to watch probably like 98, 99, somewhere
Hmm.
in that range.
Yep.
And I found the comedic aspect and the commentators in WWE drew me in a lot more than WCW did. So I ended up watching a lot more of that.
Hmm.
So I missed a lot of the really cool stuff that happened in WCW at that point in
Yeah.
time. I've seen, I think WWE put out a DVD on it, and so I've seen that, and I've seen a lot of
Hmm.
the other angles on YouTube, since then. But
Yep.
a lot of that stuff I missed out on live, which kind of regret.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
The other big thing that was happening then during the Attitude Era for us was Mick Foley getting thrown off the Hell in a Cell by the Undertaker, which whew, I remember watching that.
Yeah, I didn't see that one live. I know because what year was that? Would that have been?
That was 98. Tell you, I can actually tell you. I know it just hit the 25th anniversary or something like that.
That well,
Let's
no, it
see.
wasn't 2000 because he was doing something else in 2000.
Let's see. Hell in a Cell. It was 1998, June 28th,
Okay,
1998.
yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes no.
so I didn't see that one live. Like I wasn't getting pay-per-views.
Mhm.
As a kid,
Yeah.
my parents never cared for wrestling, so I had
No.
to sneak watching wrestling at that age. And so my best way of experiencing those, like a lot of the older pay-per-views,
Mhm.
was to go to the local video store back when we
Mm.
had video rental stores. And there
Ooh.
was one by the house. It had a two VHSs for 99 cents on Tuesdays. So
Yeah,
I
there
would
you go.
go and I would pick up like 8 pay-per-views, and I'd go and I'd home and I'd watch like 8 pay-per-views over the next week, and just trying to, real try and learn, where all this stuff came from as I was
Mhm.
trying to keep up with the week to week as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Mick. For anybody who hasn't seen it, Mick was there on this Hell in a Cell, which is probably about, I don't know, 15 feet high. Would you say, give or take?
Something
Um,
like that. They've had different cages over the years that are different heights, but I think that
yeah,
one was probably about 15.
it was insane just watching him get thrown off the top of the ring and or top of the cage and then laying on a one of the tables below for a commentary team, which is Spanish commentary team because obviously it's always a Spanish commentary team that gets their table broken for some odd reason. But just insane watching him fly off that and the way he hit and everything like that, just incredible.
And then he turns over and you can see his tooth is lodged in his nose.
Yep, yep. And they were talking about that in a video one day where Undertaker thought it was a big booger that was hanging out of Mick's nose, and Mick thought the same thing too. So just kind of incredible the stuff that they went through back then.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to try and, you know, learn to be a wrestler at that point in
Mm.
time because just everything was kind of nuts back then.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of wrestling, what do you think of how many titles do you think will change plate or change hands at Mania this year?
Oh, let's see. Think I'm gonna have to start thinking through, which belts are even on the line. I don't know if they're gonna have any tag team matches at Mania. If
Mm-hmm.
they do, they'll probably swap one of the two. If they do
Hmm.
both, I don't know. The IC belt, I think that's gonna switch hands.
Hmm.
I'm on the fence on whether that's gonna go to Dominic or if it's gonna go to Penta.
Hmm.
It could go either way.
Yeah, Penta
Sorry,
soft.
I like Finn. I like Finn Balor, but he's not going to win the belt.
Yeah, I think they'll do
um,
with the Intercontinental. I think they'll set up a Dominic Finn storyline going forward because I think Dominic or
yeah,
it's going to cost Finn the title or something like that, and it's going to start the new run with those two.
yeah, they're going to split the Judgment Day to
Hmm.
some extent. Whether they keep it alive on one side or the other, I don't know. But
Right.
that group is not long for this world.
Mm-mm.
Let's see what else. I think Cena's getting the belt.
Mm.
I think they're going to put the belt on Cena. I was originally thinking they weren't,
Hmm.
but just because I figured they wanted to do 17 as a babyface. But
Hmm.
I think it makes sense to drop it here
Hmm.
and then have heel Cena against Randy Orton,
Mm.
heel Cena against CM Punk,
Hmm.
and whatever else they decide to do.
Hmm.
Those two are the ones that I actually really want to see.
Yeah,
And I
I
think,
agree.
Backlash or something like that is going to be in St. Louis, which is where Randy Orton's from. So
Hmm.
I figure they're going to do that match there.
Hmm. Just.
Um, I think it makes sense to do it that way, and then at the end of it all,
Mm.
will lose the belt back to Cody Rhodes. Cody will get the belt back
Mm.
toward the end of Cena's run, and then Cena can go babyface for the send off kind of thing.
Kind of like The Rock cost him the title or something like that at that point, and then have Rock Cena one more time.
I don't like. We already had it twice. I don't
Yeah.
personally need to see it again because
No.
we already saw it.
Hmm.
But yeah, the Punk and Orton, he's had big rivalries with them
Hmm.
over the years. So seeing one final match between either those two combinations, I think would be a lot of fun,
Yeah,
especially
definitely.
considering Cena has never been heel in any of their previous matches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what else? Jey Uso's gonna win because, of course, he's gonna win. It doesn't make any sense for him not to win. Otherwise, why
Hmm.
would you give him the Royal Rumble just to have him lose for the fourth time?
Yeah. Yeah. That
Makes
wouldn't
no
surprise me.
sense.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what they're
Uh,
gonna do there after that point.
I don't think he'll hold the belt for very long,
No, I don't
couple
think so
months,
either.
and
Yeah.
then he'll drop it to somebody. I don't know who, but he'll drop it to somebody.
Hmm.
I think Io retains just because she's kind of been bullied out, and she's basically been made to look like the little sister
Right.
of the group there. So I think she's going to retain.
I agree.
Um, I don't know what the hell is going to happen with the Charlotte and Tiffany match. That's
Yeah, I would.
oh my.
I think I would have
After
Tiffany go
that,
over.
I would too, but after that shit show of a promo 2 weeks in a row,
Hmm.
I don't know what they're going to do at this point.
I don't know.
I don't know what the match is going to look like.
Right.
Like, because I don't know how well they're gonna work together, especially after all the shooting they've done over the last little while and going off script and everything.
True. Very true. Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like the whole Becky Charlotte, feud again, where they're. I mean, obviously they work together, but I don't think they really like each other. So I think this is kind of the same
Yeah,
thing. But yeah, I think for the tag, I think of the tag team, I don't think they've announced it yet. But I feel like at this point, I think you need to start building up the tag team division a little bit better now. I feel like that's kind of the main weakness in WWE. Their tag team division hasn't been as prominent as it used to be. But
yeah. See, that's been the case for a long time. They haven't
mm,
really put a lot of focus on the tag division at all in a
yeah,
long, long time.
yep,
Basically, back to the Attitude Era when you had like these big teams like the Hardys and
hmm,
Dudleys and Edge and Christian, and
yep. Brothers of
everyone
Destruction.
else. Yeah, Brothers of Destruction at various points.
Yep. Yeah, I would because right now I think it's the Street Profits have the titles right now, I believe. The SmackDown, I think. I forget.
Yeah,
But I'd
and
like to
then the Machine Guns won a match. I think they have the next shot, if I remember correctly,
yeah, yeah,
and they
which
haven't announced where that shot is. So maybe it's at Mania, maybe it's the Friday before. I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm a big Motor City Machine Guns fan. That's like my favorite tag team of all time. They were, I watched a lot of TNA when I was growing up too, because I mean WWE was good, but like AJ Styles, you had your Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kurt Angle, who had a lot of his great years in TNA too. I mean, you had the Motor City Machine Guns, America's Most Wanted, Beer Money. So I mean, a lot of great tag teams
See,
and stuff.
I wish that I had more that I had gotten into it earlier,
Mm,
but I didn't really get into it until around the time of Joker Sting. That
oh
was the
yeah,
time when I started getting into TNA. And then I watched it for a good few years, 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
yep,
And then I just like, all right, I'm tapping out.
yeah. So
I
you got
watched it long enough to see Broken Matt.
yep.
And I think it was a little while after that, I kind of burnt out on it. I was
Yeah, so
watching too many wrestling shows at that time. I had to cut some stuff.
you got aces and eights around that time, and then you had Joker
Oh,
Sting.
no,
Yeah.
not aces and eights.
Yeah, says Matt Hardy. I love Matt. I love Broken Matt. And then they tried to do it in WWE, but I feel like
It didn't
Vin,
work.
Vince didn't really know how to use it. If they would
Yeah.
have started it from scratch and let Matt build it up, then it'd been great. But at that point, they just didn't know what they were
I
doing.
think Jeremy Borash had a big hand in it in TNA, and he's over at WWE now.
Yeah.
and like they could try and resurrect it now, but I don't think there's any real value in it at this point, just because they already kind of did what they could with it. They tried it in WWE, it didn't work so well.
Yeah.
So I think any of the Hardys back in WWE at this point are just going to be a nostalgia run, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I would have loved to seen him actually turn or change Jeff to Brother Nero, like just to kind of continue it. Or even crazier, just if they brought him in as Willow. That would have been insane to see Willow run in WWE because I know they did it in TNA, but he never got to use it in WWE. So
Yeah,
because
Willow was kind of a weird one.
hmm
It was interesting to see him play a character that he had played, so many years ago on his in the
yeah,
Indies or whatever.
yep,
But I I don't think it ever worked as well as they wanted it to.
yeah,
It was interesting, but it wasn't like a runaway success or anything.
yeah. It was kind of niche, but
Yeah,
kind of cool option. But yeah, I think I mean, the TNA now has the thing with WWE, which who expected that would ever happen? I mean, WWE for the longest time, besides when they were helping ECW, in the early or late '90s, that they would actually admit to knowing another wrestling company. So it's
yeah.
crazy.
For the longest time, they stayed away with him. Now with Vince out of the picture, it looks like they are going to
Yeah,
do a lot more of that because they have the partnership with TNA.
yeah,
They've been sending Nakamura to Dragon Gate,
yeah,
Noah.
yeah.
Forget.
Noah and yep, Noah
Yeah,
against the Great Muta, I think, at one point, and
yeah,
then it was
yeah.
just
He's been there a few times.
mhm,
They're working with Josh Barnett's Bloodsport a bunch of times.
yep,
Um, yeah, they're starting to loan out wrestlers a lot more often, which I think is
yeah,
good considering they're doing less house shows now. So it'll give some of these
right,
other talents, other places to work and work on their
exactly.
craft. Well, especially if they're not on TV all the time.
Yeah, the one I would love to see just before they end this TNA WWE thing would be see AJ Styles go back like one night to TNA just to see, the pop
I'd
that
like
he
to
would
see
get.
that too.
That would be so incredible just to see him head back there for one off. I mean, he was the
Have
heart
they
and
put
soul.
him? Yeah, have they put him in the TNA Hall of Fame? I can't
I
remember.
think they did before he left, but I don't remember because I remember they did a whole
I because
um
I wasn't Sting the first one or
I think
something.
so. Yeah, I think, and then I think they did trade with WWE at one point for to have Ric Flair go in the Hall of Fame or something like that, or with
Yeah, Ric
Evolution.
Flair went into the Hall of Fame,
I
and
think
then
they,
they got Christian for one night or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, they traded for like in Styles. I think went in the Hall of Fame at that point, but I don't remember. That might be because I remember they had that trade that happened or something like that, or he showed up on TNA or something. I forget exactly what the spiel was,
Yeah,
but
it was Christian that went over at the time.
yeah,
Um, 'Cause
yeah,
I think the deal was for like a former TNA champion would be allowed to go over, and then they chose
hmm
Christian out of there because
yeah,
I think he had the IC belt at the time or something like that.
which Christian's underrated, very underrated wrestler. Very, very.
It's funny because he went back at that point and looked like he didn't want to be there. And then
hmm
years later, he's working for AEW. He goes back there and he's got the TNA World Championship.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens this year, but I feel like AEW this year is their live or die year, I feel like, because I mean, they have to find out what the problem is. They got to figure out I think they need to start building um their talent up back up. I feel like they've lost a lot of talent that, younger talent. Now they're trying to, survive on their Chris Jericho's and they're older wrestlers that aren't are that are more that were more over back in the day in WWE than they are now, like Adam Copeland.
yeah, the
But
thing is with a lot of their older stars that they're pushing right now is those are the ones that make me want to turn the TV off.
hmm
It's I want to see more Will Osprey banger matches. I want to
yep,
see, the development of this angle between Swerve and Hangman Page. I
Yeah.
want to see, just more interesting matches, and even something as dumb as Max Caster's stupid little best wrestler alive open challenge thing where he just gets his ass kicked in 5 seconds every week. Even
Yeah.
that's more interesting than the learning tree. And
Yeah.
I immediately skip to the next section of the show.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. But I mean, AEW needs some help. TNA's actually because of WWE connection. I think they've had their best year since they were, had AJ Styles and all them Smojo back in the day.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll find out. But yeah, they gotta AEW's gotta work on some things. WWE's hitting their stride, and I mean, if Triple H can continue with what they're doing, I mean, WWE's gonna be on top for a while again. I mean, I don't think AEW ever
Yeah.
got close, but
There was a point where they were kind of sort of closing in a little
hmm
bit, especially when Raw was absolutely dog shit for a while.
yeah,
But they never got close enough where it was actually going to happen. It was just close enough to go, oh, they might.
yeah,
And that was kind of as far as they were able to get, which
hmm
is unfortunate. I wish they would have been able to push them a little bit more. Then
exactly.
we might have gotten better TV out of WWE, a few years before we did.
hmm
But it is
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah,
Can't
they'll
really do
never
anything about it now.
right. There'll never be another WCW WWE. I don't think Attitude Era type, again because I mean
No,
W.
not in terms of direct competition like that. I
Yeah,
I don't think there's enough of a TV audience at this point to really do something like that. Like even now, WWE is more popular now than it's been in years,
yeah,
and it's more mainstream than it's ever been.
hmm
But the amount of like investment in it and the audience are nowhere near as rabid as they were back in the Attitude Era when
oh yeah,
everything was just popping off. It was all over the place.
yep. Throwing trash in the ring, stuff like that. I mean,
Yep.
WCW was, you know, was that 8 week, WWE for 83 straight weeks. I mean, nobody else is going to do that. But we'll
Oh,
see.
they won for 83 weeks. Don't tell Bischoff about that.
Yeah, right.
He'll talk about it for about 20 years.
Yep, yep. He has his own podcast, which is
Yeah.
big with that. But what's the guy's name that does that? Conrad Thompson. He has like 20,000 podcasts now, which is insane.
Yeah, I don't know how the guy has so many podcasts.
I don't know how he has so much time. I'd be losing it. But I do want to thank you for coming on this podcast episode. I know it's a first
Yeah,
one, which is
thanks for
kind of
inviting me.
which is really cool. Now if people want to find you, where can they find you at?
YouTube channel is just evil underscore Chronos 13.
And then are
At
you
least I
on
think it's underscore. I haven't even looked at it in forever.
are you on Twitter still?
I have a Twitter. I used it for about a month after I made it, and then I got bored of it.
That makes
So yeah,
sense.
it's at EvilCronos13.
Okay.
I'm
Yep.
not very good at self promotion.
Yeah, it's fine. I promote you because I know, I've watched you for years, so I know everything kind of where I find you and everything like that. And yeah, if definitely get subscribe to Evil Chronos 13 if you haven't. Great guy and does a lot of LPs, RPGs, everything going on. What are you currently doing?
Currently, I finished off Rogue Galaxy a few months ago.
Mhm.
My plan was to work on a test run, and I played the game for an hour
Mhm.
and then put it down for like 6 weeks and then picked it up for another hour and then I've put it down for another 6 weeks. So nothing at the moment,
Okay.
but I've been playing Chrono Trigger on my own
Mhm.
just to play through the PC port because I had never done it before.
Oh, nice.
And I was enjoying going through that. So I'm going to finish that off probably over the next few days here.
Mhm.
And then hopefully I'll get to back working on test runs and see if I can come up with something else that I want to put out.
Sounds good. Yeah, I hope I'll definitely be watching it when it comes out. So no matter what, but definitely like to have you on the podcast again. Maybe we'll do like a preview for WrestleMania where we go deep into every match or stuff like that. So keep that option open.
Cool.
So, but I want to thank everybody for watching tonight, and we'll see you possibly Saturday when I do a reaction to both directs that came out last week. I'm a little behind, I know, I'm sorry. But thank you all for watching, and thank you, Kronos, again for being here.
Thanks for having me.
See y'all later.